let's go back to draft night. I want to ask you a couple questions about that. You know, number 19 goes up. Steelers are on. No quarterbacks coming in. Who were you thinking the Pittsburgh Steelers were going to select in that moment, and what was your reaction after the selection?
Well, it was so much fun because we had a Zoom meeting with the staff of Behind the Steel Curtain. It was my idea to set up something because we couldn't all be together. So we said, well, at least it would be great to have some guys in there, talking about how things are going to go. And Jeff Hartman had that on one of his podcasts where he actually played the audio from that pick. But I always said leading up to the draft, well, not always, well, I often said is the way I should say it. It all depends on how the draft fell on whether or not the Steelers should take a quarterback. If the quarterbacks go quickly and early, like we see so many times when people downplay the quarterbacks and then everyone jumps in and grabs them, like even Mitch Trubisky, who's with the Steelers, that when he was drafted number 2 overall that year, that was I still didn't expect quarterbacks to be going that high in that draft. And I thought, well, maybe the same thing happens this year. If a couple quarterbacks, 2 or 3 go before the Steelers, don't take a quarterback. That means other good positions will be available. It all depends on how the draft plays out. And it played out to where all the people that I thought the Steelers would possibly take were gone. If this person fell or that person fell. Now, there was still a couple that were left that I would have been okay that I thought were around 20 quality, if you understand what I mean there. Right. But with their choice of quarterback, I was completely ready for it to be the quarterback there because of the way the draft played out. I always like to remind people that a lot of stuff can happen between pick 1 and pick wherever the Steelers go. So based on that, I knew it was going to be one of those two. And part of me was like, I wanted to know who the Steelers liked better because I didn't really mind who it was going to be. I had some people that I had discussed things with about they had taken, the Steelers aren't even going to consider Kenny Pickett. They haven't been talking to him. I'm like, he's in the same building. Of course they're talking to him. You're just not hearing about it. I was fine with whoever the Steelers felt was the best quarterback in the draft that they took him at number 20. And that's exactly what they did. And I trust their feeling about which quarterback was better, much more than mine. And saying the next one wasn't taken for quite a long time, I'm still more content with how it's going.
Awesome. Do you think that if the Steelers went somewhere else that Kenny Pickett selected in the first round?
Ooh, that's a great question. I can't even remember who was picking after the Steelers now that I think of it. I don't honestly. I'm going to say yes, because even if those teams behind the Steelers might not have been as quarterback needy, I think someone would have traded up into the end of the first round for Pickett. I think that, but at the same time, we'll never get that question answered for real. But in my mind, I think that someone would have made a move to go get him. And honestly, it very well could have been the Steelers if they would have gone a different route and not picked a quarterback that someone else that they might have even traded back up in for him.
Exactly. And you kind of said it out there many times not to fall in love with any pre-draft people, because they might end up in purple, and that's exactly what happened to Kyle Hamilton for me. And so
no, Kyle Hamilton was one. I don't know if you would listen to me about that one or not at all, but he was a player that I'm like, if this guy's still there at 20, even if that guy's still there at 16 and you can trade up a couple spots to get him, I would do that for someone like him, because I think he is if he would have been in the Steelers system and how they would have utilized him, I kind of don't like him being in purple because I think they'll utilize him very similarly as how the Steelers would have. But he wasn't the right fit for a lot of teams. So I would have been I'd have been ecstatic with that pick if that's who the Steelers would have had. But he was gone. A couple other ones that they said might have dropped, they were gone. It made sense for the Steelers to do what they did.
Yeah, I agree. I was that guy I was looking forward to. My heart sank when he went out in 14. And then I thought to myself, all right, the way the draft is falling, we're getting a quarterback.
Yeah.
And at the time, I should have thought back and looked back at, if we were going to go with the quarterback that has the potential, then I don't think we would have signed Mitch Trubisky, because we had the potential quarterback in Dwayne Haskins at the time. And so I guess there was a little bit of clues there kind of indicating that we're going to go with somebody who was probably a little bit more ready. Because I believe that it was Desmond Ridder who was rumored to be the second quarterback in the Steelers hierarchy, so to speak. And so, that's great. I think that going forward, we're going to have we have an open camp battle. Do you think that it's legitimately a 3-way battle, or do you think that that's just for, the audience and the fans to hear?
I could give you an awful lot of unpopular opinions because I gave some unpopular opinions after the draft. I'm still sticking by my opinions right now, and I think I got more credence behind them than what I did right following the draft. Is I don't know that it's a 3-way battle, and I don't know that Kenny Pickett's the other guy that's battling.
Right.
I don't think that the Steelers ultimately want to start him week 1 of his rookie year, unless he comes out and shows so much that they can't hold him back. It's not an open competition to where if one person's a little bit better than the other, then they're the winner. Now, to me, for Kenny Pickett to get that job, he's going to have to be head and shoulders above both the other guys.
Right.
And my big unpopular opinion for people is if Kenny Pickett's not your starter in week 1, I don't think he gets a helmet.
Oh, wow. So you don't think that using his mobility that they wouldn't design a certain package for him, maybe even in the red zone?
I don't think the Steelers like to change up their quarterback. It's set, and if the job of the backup quarterback, now remember, we've just been through 18 years of Ben Roethlisberger, and you weren't taking Ben Roethlisberger off the field. The Steelers could completely change and do stuff crazy. They could go back to the slash era and try to do stuff like that. We don't know that they will, but we've never seen it. So how can we expect it? My thing is, if your backup quarterback stands there on the sideline with the helmet on when the offense is out there and with the helmet off otherwise, just ready to go at a moment's notice, I feel if they stay with the quarterbacks that they have and they don't trade anyone away, and I'm not saying they should, but when they traded away Josh Dobbs, that kind of opened up that door that everyone thinks that that's what the Steelers might do. It all really depends on how things fall with other teams. If they're really looking for someone and the Steelers are willing to do that. But if the quarterback room doesn't change with the Steelers all the way up until where they have to make their roster cuts and into week 1, I think that the Steelers would rather have the player who's come off the bench before to be the guy ready that he would have to come in the middle of the game if there's an injury. Now, if something would happen to the starter, that doesn't mean that I don't think Kenny Pickett wouldn't start the following game. But I don't know that they want his first NFL snaps to be coming in and having to, face with a 3rd and 9 because the quarterback got, it was second and 2 and he got sacked and got knocked out, dinged up, and he has to come out for a play, and that's going to be his first play in the NFL. I don't know that the Steelers would like that. If you think about it, I don't know if that's a big Steelers move. I could see them playing the safer route of the more experienced person getting the helmet on game day. But ultimately, if the starter they go with doesn't get the job done, then I think Kenny Pickett's first action will be as a starter. I just don't even know if it'll be this year.
Got you. I agree. I mean, they didn't draft him 20th overall to not start him eventually.
Yeah.
He's definitely going to be the heir apparent, or at least given the opportunity to be the heir apparent. So this year, you're anticipating that Mitch Trubisky is going to get the helm week 1, or do you think Mason might?
Everything's lined up for that. I mean, I honestly thought there was the possibility that they would still have the pecking order going into OTAs as even having Mason Rudolph, simply because he's been with the team, that it might have gone Rudolph, Trubisky, Pickett. I said, but it might be Trubisky, Rudolph, Pickett. Those were my top 2 choices of what I thought it was going to be in OTAs. And it was Trubisky, Rudolph, Pickett, which tells me that they are satisfied with the NFL experience with Trubisky. I think it's his job to lose. And not only would he have to lose it, but someone else would also really have to gain it. If no one has a good camp, it's going to be Trubisky. If everyone has a good camp, I think it's going to be Trubisky. The only way that it's not is that Trubisky doesn't have the good camp or gets injured and someone else really steps up.
Yeah, I agree. That's kind of the way I thought it was going to kind of lean as well. And then once OTA started up and they automatically made the default quarterback Mitch Trubisky, that kind of pointed all the arrows in that direction.